Hello, everyone, and welcome to Trading in Zen. Normally, we are not doing video podcasts, but today is a very special day because we have Richard Friesen, who is an incredible expert on all things trading, mindset, performance. And today we're going to talk about, well, first of all, hello, Richard, and hello, Louise.
Hello.
Hello.
Good to see you guys. And today we're going to be talking about the winning mindset and handling losses. As traders, we all go through periods of severe drawdowns, mild drawdowns, but losses are a part of the game, and learning how to lose is an art form. So today we want to explore what happens to our brain when we experience a loss. We're going to talk to Richard about what to do, how to maybe prevent tilts from happening, and all the wisdom about all things brain. Well, Richard,
I'm so glad to be here and talk to people who really understand the core issues is around our brain, how we experience loss, and that trading is mostly a mental game. And one wonderful thing about trading is that, you know, if you're planning a career, if you're building a business, the decisions you make, the feedback from those can be sometimes months or years. Trading, zap. You learn right away fast and hard. And what that does is it impacts our brain in a way that is often not very helpful, because our brain was built on the savannas of Africa. We still have those very primitive parts. So the question then is, how do we handle trading? And especially what you bring up is how we handle loss. And we know from psychological studies that have been repeated over and over again that our brain feels more pain for a $1,000 loss, twice as much pain than it does pleasure for a $1,000 gain. So as a result, our brains are made to avoid loss. And that's great when the tiger's chasing you. Your brain says, hey, let's not have any loss here. But when you're trading, if I look on my most successful traders, their win rate is around 40%, 45%. As they move and they experiment moving up, and they can do this by changing their risk rewards to maybe 60%, 70%, their profitability overall goes down. So it's a really big deal how we handle loss. What is your experience with it? Is there anything we can kick off here in terms of how you've experienced loss?
Yes. I mean, loss is still, it's a challenge because it's trading is very counterintuitive, right? We normally try to keep ourselves out of harm's way, and trading puts you right into that fight or flight, right in there, and makes you confront everything you think about yourself, everything you think about money, everything you've built your life around, your goals, your hopes, your aspirations. And every time the trade goes your way, you celebrate that thing happening right around the corner. And every time you encounter a loss, you feel like everything's not going to work out. And then there's a thing of a recency bias, right? We forget all about the bigger picture, and the recency bias kind of takes over that conversation. And so I know that I have to limit amount of trades I take per day, because if I have a number of consecutive losses, after the third loss, I'm no longer in charge of myself anymore. and the emotions hijack the brain. And so my cutoff is 3 losses, my third bullet, and that's it. And 3 shots I take, and anything beyond that has recently or in general would cause a tilt.
That's
and that is sort of the experience.
Excellent thinking there, because what happens is our brain chemistry changes. And there's a book, The Hour Between Dog and Wolf. The author doesn't come to mind immediately. But in that book, they did brain chemistry tests on traders who had been losing and traders who are profitable. Brain chemistry is very different. So when you are in a series of losses, our primitive brain kicks in and says, no, we've got to stop this. So then we go on tilt, we try to revenge trade, we cancel our stops, we step into a context that literally our rational brain doesn't even have access to. So what you're talking about is, how do we then, as traders, create an internal mindset that helps manage our primitive brain? So here's what I've done. I've divided trades into lousy and lucrative trades. A lucrative trade is one where you follow the system, you've gotten your sleep, you're in a good mindset, you've executed it according to your principles, you've managed the trade while it's open according to your plans, you exit according to your plans. It has to do with all the preparation you've done, your strategy, your execution. You've done that, it's lucrative. Now, a lousy trade is one where maybe you were partying too hard last night. You needed to make the win, and you said, oh, I can do this, and you shoot off an impulsive trade. That's obviously lousy on every level. So let's say you have a system that makes, well, let's just make it easy. 50% are profitable, 50% are unprofitable. The profitable trades make $2. The unprofitable trade loses $1. So what is your average win rate if you say $1 loss, $2 win for every trade? If you want to do
I run actually analytics on my trading, and my winning rate is 44%.
Okay. Now, if we just look at that, then if on one trade we make $2, and on a losing trade we lose $1, that means on 2 trades we've made $1, right? We've lost one, we've made one. So you divide that by 2, and that's 50 cents. So that means over the large sample size, every trade is worth 50 cents. Okay, so if we're executing lucrative trades, there is no loss. There is the expected gain of 50%. So you can say, oh, okay, my expected gain is 50%. Whether this was a loser or a winner, it doesn't matter. Now, this is a trick to fool our brains into not thinking about loss. Because once we start thinking about loss, a whole bunch of things happen. If we have what I call a hole in our heart, or we need confirmation of who we are, our identity, our beliefs, if we're looking for approval from the spouse, from our parents, if we're looking to be a big shot and have the Ferrari, the trophy spouse, the mansion, we have this big dream, we need approvals. So what happens is every tick against us, oh my gosh, it's a tick about our deepest core identity, self-worth, our dreams, and depending on the client, it's all different. But all of a sudden, then we can easily go on tilt because our entire life is at stake. Now, I'm exaggerating a bit. But
sometimes it feels like that, though.
Yeah.
Sometimes and
yes,
sometimes
indeed.
you talk yourself into some really disastrous. You start to self-talk, and it turns into a pretty disastrous outcome where you watch your whole life and dreams and everything, especially if you have a string of losses.
Yes.
It's maybe not so bad on the first day. By the 4th day, and sometimes it happens, by the 4th day, it's really hard to come back because you already coming in that morning in that stressed out state.
Yes.
And you're not at a neutral at all. And I think that the mastery here is to set yourself back to that neutral space where you can sort of treat each day as an independent statistical probability occurrence rather than a string of like the story you've written while you were up at 3 o'clock in the morning thinking about everything you've done wrong. I think that is where it gets harder for us to come back.
Boy, you've just put your finger on it. Louise, any thoughts you want to add to that?
Well, I think I was going to go on to the subject of kind of words, because if we use the word loss or losses, why don't traders reframe that? Because you were talking about kind of earning the $1 a day or the 50 cents a day. Well, that's not a loss, is it? it's a gain. So
right.
I think it's words are powerful, and if even the word loss, you know, can kind of cause a tilt or to feel of like stressed. So, you know, the question is, do traders need to use the word loss or losses? How about reframing it so it's not as harsh? Or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, really quickly on the subject of that, my friend Kathy and I, we call it being tagged out. You get tagged in and you get tagged out. And you say, we just say, oh, I got tagged out of that trade. So, you know, I had my protection in place, stop loss hit, you tagged out. I'm going to tag myself back in. What do you think of that if we change the vernacular to things of that nature?
Well, I think Louise brought up something really important, is that language impacts how we feel. In fact, when with a client, sometimes, you know, let's say that there's two contexts. One is you're trading your system, that you have lucrative trades, half of them are losers. You look at each one of them as a profitable trade because statistically they are. The other one is the lousy, where you're just in a horrible place. So I'll have them exaggerate. Let's go, and I'll have them go back to a really terrible trade they did. And I'll have them recreate it, even if we can do it on the screen, is to replay it, have them experience it fully, have them go into it, just exaggerate it. And then I'll have them step into the other part, a lucrative trade, a different experience. And it turns out what Louise pointed out is so important is the language, that if I want them to step into that old space that isn't working for them, I'll say, what language do you use? And I'll find out the language. And that's the key. So if we can change the language, like Louise pointed out, then we can also change our mindset.
Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on recently I've started using something called bilateral music. And I find I put it in my ears when I start to trade right before, and something about that particular frequency, it kind of evens out your left side and your right side of your brain, and it diminishes the anxiety you're feeling. And I found it to be super calming, and less tilt happened because it feels like both sides of my brain aren't like the left side is not taking over the right, because I guess that's the stronger side, right? That's your chimp brain or whatever they call it. And what are your thoughts on the bilateral music or frequencies?
Yeah, what I call that a break state, so that we have a certain, all these neurological neurons, they're all connected. So when we get into the language, like Louise pointed out, or we get into a negative state, boom, all this stuff. Am I worthy? You know, what my parents think, you know, I'm going to have to make it. My dreams are shattered. We go into these neurological connections that are just automatic and boom, pull us down. So there's a lot of ways to do a break state. And a break state says, let's start fresh, and different neural patterns, different auditory signals. For me, breathing is my break state. Oh my gosh. Take a deep breath. Ooh, all of a sudden, I just noticed right now my shoulders are a little tight. I'm pushing a little bit. I'm talking a little fast now. So what if I just right now take a break state? Oh, all of a sudden I look at Fiona, I look at Louise. Oh, here I am. Difference. I've just changed my brain to be more fully present, rather than delivering a message as fast as I can.
I love that. I'm a huge advocate, and I teach clients and traders all about the breath work, because the breath work, our breath is our anchor. We can literally within seconds go from, like you just said, this heightened state of kind of rage or anxiety. Within just 30 seconds, we ground ourselves, we're calm, our mind's focused, and it goes back to that primitive brain again. But it, you know, breath work is our anchor, and it's free, and and everyone can use it.
Many years ago, when I was planning on being a therapist, one of the things I did, I went to therapy myself with a Reichian therapist. And you don't need to know the background about that, but It starts with breath work. And I would lay on the couch, put my knees up, and he would have me start to breathe. And I would start, no, okay, breathe deeper, deeper. And if I didn't, a couple of times, he took his hand and he hit me right in the solar plexus. Boom. And because the tension in those muscles was so tight, I literally couldn't undo them. Boy, did that undo them in screams of pain and breathing. But eventually I got to the place where I could breathe deeper. And when I did, the tears, the pain, the memories, all locked into my physiology started coming out. And I spent a couple of months just in tears so I could open up my musculature. Now, not everybody wants to go down that path, and you don't need to. But what Louise pointed out is how grounding that can be, and that can shift your mindset just like it did mine just right now in the moment.
Yeah. It's amazing what we hold in our body. We hold trauma, we hold emotions, and by using our breath for our advantage, we can start to reduce, release negative emotions. We can, as I mentioned, feel grounded. We can even release trauma. But obviously working with a professional is the right way to do that. But, I think there's so many free things that we have that we can use to kind of, it doesn't cost anything, so.
Yeah. And the wonderful thing about, go ahead.
No, go on. It was just
the wonderful thing about trading is as you step into your trader's mastermind, what we teach is our set scores, our sensations, being aware of them, our emotions, and the quality of our thoughts. The golden keys, being aware of that, all this, accepting what we discover, and then being aware of it from our higher place. Eventually, that awareness produces agency. So we start with awareness, but with that practice of awareness, that then becomes an agent that can be aware of what's going on in our bodies, accept it, not judge it, and say, now, what would I like? And the wonderful thing about trading is if you can step into that state with trading, it changes your life. I've had people tell me it's changed their marriage, it's changed their jobs, their careers, everything, because they're able, if they're able to do that while trading, bang, it makes a difference in their whole world.
Absolutely. And with that as well, to add on to that, what I like to do is I'm a big advocate again of kind of visualization. So you can kind of almost, with that self-awareness and becoming the observer, you can say you have a choice to step away from the ego, to expand your comfort zone, and you can visualize this. You can kind of, I think it is pretty powerful. What are your thoughts on that, Richard? Sort of.
Yeah, well, we have a number of visualizations, the guided visualizations and hypnosis sessions. For example, what you're saying is important. What if you don't even know what it's like to step into a master trader's mindset? What if you've never been there? You don't know what it feels like. So what we do with hypnosis and guided visualizations is invite people into that master trader's mindset. And what we do is we create it in the form of a house, stepping into your trading room. And we also then look back to see what our brain was like, what we were like before, and to see what resistance is there, to see what's stopping us. But Louise, that's so important, because unless we have that something we're stepping into, all we're doing is fighting our old lizard brain. Well, we can fight our lizard brain forever. I mean, it's really still going to be there.
Exactly.
So much better to focus on stepping into the master trader's mindset and understanding how it feels so much better, how it honors our values, gets us to our goals. And once that feels so good, you'll never want to go back. Needless to say, the lizard brain will occasionally hook us, but we can say, old lizard brain hooked us again. Take a breath, not where I want to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
They say that a repeated thought becomes a habit, and then it creates a neural pathway. And that neural pathway is now how you are perceiving, processing, and then I guess reacting to things. How does one work on changing a neural pathway from a negative thought pattern to a positive thought pattern?
Oh boy, that's a really good question. And this is how I like to think about it. Your old behavior, when we look back, there's no blame or shame or even responsibility. We'll just say that's all the old neural pathways. Going forward, we are totally responsible for the life we have. So we're not blaming ourselves in the past, and now we're taking responsibility. But, you know, like when I learned to drive a car, and it was a stick shift back then, you know, put the clutch in and the car shakes. Well, now I can drive down a freeway and have a philosophic conversation with a friend at the same time. How is that? The neural pathways have now automated that process. So what we do is to understand that when we first starting to do it, these neurons are just, you know, not quite there. And, oh, we made a little connection. Oh, we made another one. We repeat it. We repeat it. But if we understand it's like going to the gym and working out and that we're going to be sore for a while and it's not our fault, it's just creating those pathways. And if we think of it like that, it makes our job much easier rather than thinking, oh, we're just this bad person who's not doing what they should be doing.
Mm. What are your thoughts going on to that? Because I'm a strong believer in the 21 days, and I've seen it in the last decade. It's uncanny with traders. But what are your thoughts? Because there's so many different kind of sort of people saying, you know, no, it's not, it's 90 days, it's 180 days. Now we know that everybody's different. We know that problems can be deep rooted. So everyone's different. But for my years of working with traders, it's quite almost to the day. It's quite uncanny with the 21 days to see, you know, positive change.
Yeah. Well, if you believe it's 21 days, my gosh, you may even be creating the fact that it's 21 days.
You never know. Possible.
You never know.
Yeah.
What's important what's really helpful is if you understand we still have the lizard brain, it still gets triggered, and we can say, oh, that's fascinating. My lizard brain just got triggered again. Interesting. It used to run my life. Oh, this feels much better. So thank you, lizard brain. Oftentimes, I will have people have a conversation with that survival mechanism. Let's talk to it. Let's see what it does. And oftentimes, the survival brain came to us when we were 4, 5, 6. You know, an example is, I heard my dad coming home drunk again. I knew he was going to be angry, maybe hit me. I hide under my bed. So my survival mechanism is hiding. So that, if, for example, a trader got into too big a trade, canceled his stops, going against them, what did he do? He figuratively went under his bed and went hiding. So we have those old parts of us. And if we can accept them, say, oh, that's fascinating. That's my survival brain trying to help out. Okay, it's, you know, not appropriate now that I'm an adult. So let's have a conversation with the survival brain. So sometimes we'll literally have a conversation back and forth between the trader and their survival brain and bring that into conscious awareness, and then allow our higher selves to be aware of it in real time, and then say, thank you, survival brain, for alerting me that I don't want to lose or I'm going to get beaten up by the market. Appreciate your warning. Thank you. And our risk manager is going to handle this.
Mm. That's very interesting. Perfect. How do you work with the recency bias, right? This is a lot of traders, losses happen because of the recency bias, because we forget about all the other days that we performed really well. All we remember is this one time you moved that stop and then it imploded or exploded, however you want to go about this. And how do you overcome the recency bias?
Well, you don't need to overcome it. You just recognize it. And what we do is we have a program called Mind or Market Metrics. And the Market Metrics program is where you measure all your lucrative trades. You measure your lousy trades. And If you could, I could show you one where, you know, a trader, if you looked at his lousy trade, he's down 14,000. If you look at his lucrative trades, he's made 12,000. So all he would have to do is get rid of the lousy trade. So by looking at a long-term path of his emotional state, his set scores, his lucrative trades, his lousy trades, you can see it for a longer period of time. And, you know, if you look at your recency bias, you can say, what does the current trade say about me? I'm aware of it. And what can we, you know, what do I prefer to experience in this moment with the trades that are losses? And here's a really important point, is that a lot of traders, the loss is the experience, comes with the experience. In other words, the loss and the experience are the same thing. But when we develop our higher level self, we have the experience in the world, and then we say, we have the event in the world, how do I want to experience it? And if we look at today's culture, more and more people seem to be associating, just outside of trading, that the experience actually comes with the event. So I need to make the outer world better for me so that I'm okay, as versus how do I want to experience this? And the traders who have separated that, it says it makes their entire life better.
It's very powerful. There's such mastery to control, to kind of not let your brain control you, but find a way to work with it. And I think because every brain is different, people have different triggers, people respond to different things. What's paramount to me might be nothing to another person. So it's so hard to take I guess first you have to discover who you are and how you operate, right? And then you can be friends with the way you work and all what the losses mean to you. And are there books people should read? Are there lectures, obviously outside of your courses? Are there other things?
Oh man, The Hour Between Dog and Wolf. That's good. The Book of Not Knowing frees us up from our bubble. Obviously, A Private Conversation with Money. Traders especially have an issue, especially if you have a good heart, about making all this money and not delivering value, and they feel guilt. So some traders will actually lose money at a certain point because they're not ready to step into wealth. That's the biggest surprise I had as a therapist, is that we work through all these issues, but we never visualize and manage stepping into wealth and what's that like. And until we can visualize it and accept that, our subconscious is going to, believe it or not, is going to sabotage us.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
we need to wind this up pretty soon. So if people are interested, I'm always happy. You can go to mindmusclesfortraders.com. There's my book, A Private Conversation with Money, that's listed everywhere in all formats. And of course, you guys are a tremendous resource for traders. And so I'd advise people to look at your openness, your willingness to really look at your mindset. And that is so powerful. So I encourage you to keep your work and keep expressing yourself, because I think you're a great model for traders and just how to live your life.
Thank you so very much for joining us today, Richard. And we will continue more conversations with Richard on topics that all traders want to know and wonder about. And we will continue to better ourselves. So thank you so much. It was a pleasure having you, and we will be speaking with you soon.
Okay, let's do it again. There's so much more to go.
Thank you so much,
All right.
Richard.
Until next time, everyone.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.